to the Trimble Business Center Power Hour, where we talk about all things TBC and TBC related. During today's Power Hour, we will be discussing the utilization of machine data to create subsurface as-builts. Attendees will be in listen-only mode, but we welcome all questions and comments, so please feel free to type them into the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen and we'll respond accordingly. With us today, we have your hosts, myself, D. London Harrison, a civil construction sales development rep, along with Nick Pfeifferich, the CEC software regional sales specialist, whom will be moving into a new role shortly and will greatly miss him hosting our monthly TBC Power Hours. But we'll be sure to work with you going forward because you're not going to be that far away from us, but we'll definitely be missing you going forward. Joining us once again today to share his TBC knowledge and passion is Mike Tartaglia, the technology specialist at SITECH Southwest. Mike's TBC resume speaks for itself. His vast experience in the industry and understanding of the construction process speaks volumes and lends to the growth and development of TBC along with many other Trimble solutions. We are happy once again to have Mike not only as a beta tester and trainer for TBC, but back again with us today as our presenter. Also with us today are our guest speakers, Cyrus Randelia, president of KAE Incorporated, and engineer and training, Adrian Mina. Founded in 1997, KAE, an employee-owned civil engineering and construction corporation, has specialized in water, wastewater, and subsurface utility projects across Alaska and Arizona down here in the lower 48. Having performed and excelled in projects ranging from fiber installation, septic systems, and water treatment plant construction in rural, remote, and harsh locations, we thought it'd only be fitting for them to share with us how they get the job done efficiently and with the level of detail they need utilizing Trimble's connected solutions such as TBC and WorksOS and WorksManager. So during today's Trimble Business Center Power Hour, Mike, along with Cyrus and Adrian, will walk us through how they collaborated and utilized both Trimble hardware and software solutions to produce a subsurface as-built model, including cross-sections of a fiber optic cable that is being installed under the Arizona section of the US-Mexico border wall. We'll go over how KAE collects data from the field, shares said data with Trimble's software solutions, and then produces a deliverable that the owner can benefit from. Thank you once again for joining us, Mike. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you and the KAE team.
Thank you, DeLondon. All right, now I have to switch this over, show my screen. Perfect, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does everybody see my screen? See me moving around?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right, excellent. Okay. So for the people that were on before, if you're attending again, you'll see the slides that I showed earlier. I'm going to kind of give a little brief history of myself, and then we'll get fully into the project. As you can tell, I started a very long time ago, actually 1988 BGPS. So GPS wasn't even really being thought about at that point in time. On the left-hand side, you see my tools of my trade. In there, you'll also notice that you don't see a laptop, computer, cell phone, nothing. This is all we had to be successful for out in the field. On the right-hand side, that is me right there back in 1991. This was not taken with a cell phone. This is actually was taken by a camera from the developer, and a film actually had to be developed in order to generate this picture. That's me right there talking to the superintendent for the piling company. Inside my hand here is a notebook because we had no other way of marking things out in the field, where I was going to be laying out pile locations. There's my radio. That's how I communicated with my guy in the field who was running the rod. And then right over here, you see that little leather case. That's my leather case right there for my HP 41CX. So that's where my whole career started back in 1988, and then progressively went from project management, lead surveyor, lead project manager, head of landfill design and layout from, you guys heard that from the previous one. What I do today is I do a lot of drone technology, training on how to fly drones, proper setup of your site with GCPs, make sure your GCPs are inside your flight, to processing the drone data through UAS master, and then beta testing 5.4 right now, where you're going to be able to process your DJI drone directly inside 5.4. That's going to be a game changer. To doing custom corporate training, here is a very large company, countrywide or United States wide company. I was paid for a month to come in every Friday and Saturday, and I trained every single division of their company on the use of Business Center. To me speaking here at Trimble Dimensions, this one is on tips and tricks of 3D modeling. That was one of the things I did for years before SITECH took me on. And then I don't have a picture here, but I've been starting to get into the lecture scene of colleges. And I did a lecture at ASU, or Arizona State University, a couple of weeks ago, and spoke to the project management division about the uses of Trimble Business Center software and how to make a company successful, and why the old saying cash is king is incorrect. It should be cash flow is king. So that's a little bit about me, but we're going to talk about what is going on for today's webinar, and this is going to be covering underground utilities. This is a big business. It's always been big, even from the days that I started, like I said, back in 1988. We've always needed to perform some form of as-built information. We had to do it the old-fashioned way, drawing things up on boards, nothing like what you're seeing here today. What you see here on the right-hand side is an actual plan that I did for SITECH Southwest when I was building models for a client. And there's the pipe runs for this. And what we were doing was showing the contractor how to be able to use Trimble Business Center and the technology with the utility module to lay out and dig for their utilities. Now, the cool part about this is you can do this for everything, as well as built with a lot of the same technology, which we'll be talking about. So we're talking about you'll be able to do storm, sanitary, electrical, gas, water, and communication lines. Some of these are open trenched, where you can do multiple ways of getting as-built, and some of these are trenches that are backfilled at the same time that the lines are put in. And that could become part of a daunting task of trying to figure out how to get an as-built done. But with this technology here, what you can see here and the as-builts we're going to talk about, you can come in with the site module of Trimble Business Center, build your pipe network, then take your as-built information from the field, and if you have line work, use the utility module to actually recreate the as-built information. So now you can have a 3D representation of your as-builts and a 3D representation of where the lines were supposed to be based upon the design. And now you have multiple ways of visualizing and presenting to whatever entity you need to in regards to where the utilities are set. Well, the project we're going to be talking about is something very unique. What we have here is KAE was brought in to do a fiber optic line at the border wall in Arizona. Now, the beautiful part about this is we were able to make our technology work on here. So you're able to see here that we do have a head right here on the plow. You'll see the spool of the cable coming down in, and they were burying, as you can see here, the line the exact same time that they were plowing it in. So we had some requirements to meet. The project requirements were they needed to know the exact location of the fiber at burial. Well, if you remember, if I come back to this picture, it was being buried the exact same time that it was going in. So we needed to know that. We had to solve that question that was needed. The next thing they needed was a ground elevation at the fiber location. Other requirement was they wanted to know the depth of the fiber to finished design grade, because they had certain requirements that had to be met, and to make sure that these requirements were met in the field based upon the design location and where they were putting the fiber in. Now, due to the ground that was out there, and I'll let the guys from KAE speak here in a couple of seconds and kind of explain what they're dealing with on the ground, is that it wasn't just a straightforward go along this line and put it in. They had hit some rock situations. There was some existing burial of some other foundations that nobody knew about. So we had to actually relocate on the fly where that line was actually going. And with the technology that we came up with, we were able to even know exactly where that line was placed, even when we had to make changes on the fly in the field, and then supply as-builts of required information. So here is the requirements. Based upon the technology that I'm going to show you, this is what we are able to meet. So what I like to do is give Adrian and Cyrus a little bit of time here to speak about some of these issues that they were concerned with when they know they had to meet these requirements until we were able to get this technology working. So I'm going to pass it over to them. So if they can just chirp in, fill us in a little bit, give us a little more scope for the project, and then I'll continue on.
Yes, this is Cyrus with KAE. This project was interesting. Like you said, it had some interesting requirements, including knowing where we're putting the cable, X, Y, and Z, for a plowed-in cable. Usually, if you have an open trench, you can just hit the pipe or utility line with more standard equipment. This one presented something of an issue, but the Trimble system works beautifully for it. And not just for keeping us online, but it allows us to also, here in Anchorage, we can review the work of our folks down in Arizona. We can kind of check their daily reports against our data and pick up any anomalies or any kind of quirks, something that we didn't expect. And we can turn around and ask our field personnel right that day or the next day, what was going on here, without waiting for 2 weeks to get data and then finding an issue and then having to go back and investigate it. The real-time aspect of this is really the wonderful part about it. Keeping us online while we're doing the construction. And then, like you said, where we have issues that popped up unexpectedly, being able to track exactly where we put our changes, X, Y, and Z, to know exactly where we are. That's been just a godsend. Being able to generate as-built information on a weekly basis, we could do it on a daily basis even, is astounding. It's just a lovely system. I definitely see us using this more and more as we go forward in projects, especially bigger projects. And like I said, for us, part of it is the remote aspect of it. Our construction managers and personnel up here in Alaska, we can keep track of exactly what's going on down in Arizona. It's all around a great system. I'm glad we got hooked up with it.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And I'm glad that you guys had some faith. I know in the beginning there was a little bit of doubt. We did have some hiccups. I'm going to put that right up front, but we were able to work through the hiccups and start generating the information. And I also have to give a shout out to some of the Trimble guys. I know Steve Benko is on here. He has taken many of my panic calls and my idea calls going, hey, can I make this happen? Can I make that happen? So this project was also moved forward because of my ability to also be able to contact and talk to Steve. So a shout out to Steve during this part too. So here's the requirements. And the softwares that we use to generate this information is, as you can see here, Trimble Business Center. It's the hub. It is where the design came in. It is where the files came in from the contractor that that KAE was working for. We were able to compile all of that in Business Center. From there, we were then able to push that out to the field and put that into the machines. And then from the machines, it came into WorksOS, where you are able to, on a daily basis, have anybody log in. They can see where they're working. Also get quick reviews based upon where the line is to the design surface to see if they're meeting the requirements before you even start bringing in your as-built information. And then right from WorksOS, we were bringing it right back into Business Center. This is where we were creating the as-built information. So as you can see here, this is what I talk about, the triangle of success for really any construction company. This is where you're going to know if cash is king or cash flow is king. It is right through this trio, and this is going to help you out immensely. And these are going to be the 3 products that I'm going to be talking about here in the upcoming part of my presentation. So I'm going to flip over now, and I'm going to come into the Business Center, which is the hub of everything here. So using Business Center is a fabulous tool, and we use it for everything, and it can be used for everything. Now, the key thing is when you do things like this, you need to be very well organized. I gotta admit, out of the most daunting task of me working with Adrian at KAE was getting the setup, getting the layers correct, so everything came in correctly, getting organized on the management. Now, this isn't their full project. This is something that I was working with them on, so I took part of their project and was working with it. But what you'll see here is the use of groups to keep everything organized. So you can see right here, everything is done by a date. Very, very, very important for what we're going to be needing to extract from this information. So by Adrian having this information all nice, neat, and organized, if Cyrus needed to come to him and says, hey, I need to know on this particular date, can you pull me information like what Cyrus mentioned? Adrian can go in, he can pull him anything that he needed right there at his fingertips. Again, this could be done on a daily basis because with the use of WorksOS and WorksManager and Business Center, at the end of the day, all that information from the machine and the data collector is already could be pushed right into Business Center. So, and there has been times where Adrian has come in the next morning and has produced as-built information for what they did the day before. So use of keeping things organized by groups and layers is huge. Using view filters, very, very, very important. I'm going to kind of step through the view filters because I'll never make it through this whole presentation and leave time for questions and answers and some closing statements from KAE and Trimble in regards to this. So I'm gonna kind of use my view filters and things like that to kind of walk you through the scope of the project. So what is happening here is the project, everything is being sent to the field. So if I come over to here and we have Trimble WorksManager, you see here, there's the project scope. You can see the outline of the project. This is where they are working. All the information is going to the machines that are in here and then being pushed up to WorksOS. And in WorksOS, what you can see here is on a daily basis, they're able to actually see where they were working at this point in time. Along with this, you can see with the color coding, we can see where if they're meeting the necessary requirements for this based upon a final grade surface that was put in, that was given to us of what the final grades of the ground was going to be in that area. Inside here, not only is anybody at any time able to get a visual of where they are, they have a bunch of tools in here. They can come in and actually cut a profile through here. And this will take a couple of seconds. And what they'll be able to see is where the actual line is being placed to where the design is. And then they're going to be able to click on any one of these areas, and they'll be able to see the depth of placement of where they're putting their line. So in the office, before they even start bringing the information in and start putting as-builts together, what they're able to do, like Cyrus said, they can monitor, and if they see something, they can immediately get on the phone with their superintendent out in the field and go, hey, we're kind of seeing some variance here. What's going on? And there's times where, you know, the variance happened because they had to maneuver around an entity. So the plow came out of the ground and it was still in mapping. So it was mapping the plow tip out of the ground. So we had some areas where, oh, it looked like the fiber optic line was above the ground when it really wasn't. They were just moving. So these are things that back in the olden days, we would have never known. When I handed in my field notes to the office, or the office handed their field notes into me, if they didn't make good notes of it and develop, because again, we didn't have photos, we didn't have cameras where we were able to take a picture on our cell phone and send it. If they didn't develop a photo, a roll of film kind of showing me what they did, it was a guessing match. And I didn't know, because I had no visuals until I actually started hand drawing this information up. So here, you're going to be able to get a visual very quickly on what is actually taking place in the field. Also, the cool thing about this is they're going to be able to monitor the equipment, the time of day, and the elevation, and they'll be able to follow the direction. And you can see here, by looking at the timestamp, how fast they're actually moving, putting this line in the ground, okay? So you're going to be able to get this real-time information coming in to here from the machine, so now you can monitor this. Now, what everybody's probably saying is, hey, this trench looks a little wide for that plow. And yes, it is. The reason for that is, if we went back to the picture of the plow, you see how skinny that plow is. One, is very hard to find and monitor. So what we did is we made it where it took that edge of the plow, where the center of the plow, and it just projected those same points out for a certain number of feet. So we were able to visually see, because when you're zoomed in and you have something that's only 6 inches wide, you're not going to be able to find it pretty quickly. So we're able to come in and do this. You also have the ability to set up regions. So I set up a region here, and we can set that up as a filter. So if there's a question, I can come in, put a region around here, create a filter, and then call my guy in the field and say, hey, go up here, go to this filter, and it'll zoom them in on the area that I had some concern with. So once we have this information here that's being fed real time from the machines, we now will bring that information in to Business Center. So again, being organized, having our view filters and our filter manager set up here. I also have things broken out to make each task very easy. So here's utilities. So you'll see that I have utilities, I have takeoff. So I'm not intermingling different things. There is some overlap of tools, but you're only going to have the tools here that you need to get the job done. So at this point in time, what Adrian would be doing is, on the following morning when he comes back into the office, is he just comes right up to this icon right here and he goes, create machine data overlay. And what this is going to do is going to go out, it's going to find the machines, and he's going to be able to create a name of the overlay, what kind of coverage he wants. He wants an elevation, pick the date range, and what will end up happening from here is it will bring in a footprint of where that work was done. From that, all he'll do from there is he'll come in and he will create a machine data surface. That machine data surface will then be 3D X, Y, and Z of the exact location and elevation of that plow. So what I have here is I have a little filter set up for machine data for this day. And what you'll see is there is the information that was brought in from SiteWorks that was extracted from the machine. And now you can see here that we're able to show exactly where that plow worked at any time of the day. From here, we'll take a look at a 3D. So I'll open up the 3D, and what you'll be able to see here is there is the design line. The purple is the design line that was given to us from the company or that they were working for. And you can see that this line right here is set to be at the requirement of the depth that's needed. And you can see that the ground changes quite a bit as we are going through here. But if you look at this, you'll see where we're pretty much following right along the design of this project with getting this information in. So now from here, we now know the X, Y, and Z location of that trench. So we met one requirement. We needed to know X, Y, and Z of the depth of that fiber optic line as it was being buried at the same time. So here's requirement number one. We have a visual for that. What Adrian was able to do at that point in time is now meet requirement number two, which was we need to know what the existing ground is. Anybody out here that's a surveyor that's been, out in the field for a while knows that, okay, getting ground information, pretty simple. Got the rover today, just fire up the rover and go out and shoot. So what KAE has is they have a guy out in the field. They're super. He will, as they're digging the trench, go out and follow behind and start doing ground shots every 50 feet along the buried part of the trench. So we can now monitor what was the ground at that point in time when the line was buried. So we're going to come in and we'll start looking at the fiber set. So you see here we have the fiber set for that day. And I'll come down here and here is the fiber location information. And I'll just start walking you through really quick the steps that and the workflow that Adrian is following. So because of everything being tied into WorksOS, Adrian is able to grab the data collector information and bring the point information into Business Center of where the ground shots were actually taken. So now we have X, Y, and Z on the ground. So if we do that, we bring in, the ground points, and you'll see here that this is where the fiber was being set that day. And you can see that they took a bunch of shots along the top of the ground. Now, what we're able to do with this is from right here, we're able to meet another requirement. What was the ground compared to the design? So based upon having this information, Adrian was able to take this, go to point to surface, and he was able to create a point to surface report, which then showed him the ground shot taken by the surveyor, the northing, easting, and elevation, what it was being compared to, the surface elevation at that location, and that what was the ground at the time of burial. Okay, so he was able to bring this information in and meet requirement number one. So this whole process that I'm showing you right now would probably take somebody after they're trained, and I'll let Adrian speak a little bit about this too. I'm thinking probably about an hour to 2 hours of time in the morning to get this part done, and you're able to hand over to your overseeing company your as-built information at that point in time. So he would create this, then back in Business Center, he would come in, and what we would use is we would use the tool called line string through points. And what we would do at that point in time is create a line of where the ground is. Now this is going to be important, and you'll see why, because we needed to create other as-built, as in cross sections as well as in profiles. So you'll see here in a few minutes why creating that line is so important. Now, to meet the requirement, we know the X, Y, and Z of the trench, but Now what we need to do is meet the requirement. One of the requirements is, what is the depth of that particular line that was buried? So what we were able to do is use a tool. We were able to take this line here, and we dropped it down onto another layer and made it take on the elevation of the surface that was generated by the plow. And what that gave us our actual line. So now that line has true X, Y, and Z location based upon the surface from the plow. Once we had that, then all Adrian had to do is create fiber points, or points set to the line. So we used the tool where we came in and we said points at interval, and he set up an interval, and we created points along that line. From there, we clicked on points to surface, which led us to be able to create this point to surface report. And now what we have is we have northern, eastern elevation of the actual line based upon true information that came from the machine that was brought in to the design surface, and that what is the burial at those locations along that line. So now, just that quickly, they have been able to meet a part of the requirement. I need to have some form of as-built information of what went on. So now Adrian has these two reports. He's able to generate these. From there, he'll come back into Business Center. And because everything is nice and neat on its own layer and layer grouped, what he was able to do from here is come in and use the area and length report. And he was able to come in, pick the layer or just pick the line, select that he wanted just the length, wanted to display in report view, and what comes up is he was able to instantly get a report. Again, because everything is organized and layered and grouped correctly, he was able to generate a report of how many lineal feet they did during that time frame on 8/10 on the north side of the project. What he was able to do is take these two pieces of information, create PDF files for them, send them over to the contractor that they were working for, and meet a requirement of letting them know pretty much on a daily basis where they were and how many lineal feet they did on a daily basis. So with this tool, they were able to meet these particular requirements. Now, the cool part about Business Center here is we can also go in the reverse direction. So if there was any design changes in here, then we would be able to then take this and send and publish this right back to, and for some reason my icon is not showing up this morning, we can send this directly back to WorksOS. So if there's an updated surface and they need to monitor that back in the field over in here, so they're able to get updated depth numbers, they'd be able to do that. So on any project that you may have that has different, so let's look at a design build. You got a design build project, everything is changing on a daily basis. With the use of Business Center and these tools, and you may have underground utilities that you need to monitor, you're able to send things back and forth. You can also send an updated line file. So if the location changed, we can send a different location, and that could be sent up through WorksOS or WorksManager, and that could be updated in the machine. So what you're able to do on a daily basis, no matter what you're taking in, or you're taking as built in, you're modifying designs for better as built information to go back out because things have changed. The guy in the office is going to be able to, with these three products, control a whole project. Also, by controlling this whole project, the guy in the field is also going to be able to monitor, are they using the correct surface? Are they using the correct design? As well as the field is going to be able to. So they would be able to log in and immediately there'd be a yellow flag pop up and say, machine's using old design. So you can call in, call your operator, say, hey, you're using the old design. Stop. Do not put any more utility. If you start putting the utilities in, you need to switch to the other design. Where back in the olden days, we didn't have that communication. We hoped that we were able to get out there in time and start getting some stakes in the ground before our guys in the field just continue digging. And there's been times where we actually put utilities in and had to rip things out because we didn't catch that in time and get out in the field in time, where we had a few thousand feet of utility going in the wrong area based upon an updated design. So with this, you're going to be able to have instantaneous feedback between the field and what's happening here in the office. So with this information coming in and going out, Adrian continued to put all of this together. And one of the things that we required was we wanted the alignment that was being used by the overall site contractor, and I'm going to mention their name, hopefully they won't get mad, is Southwest Valley Constructors is the overseeing client on this. And we, through them, were able to get the location of the baseline that they were using with their stationing. So then we were able to also
Mike, I think we lost you, bud.
Okay, sorry, I had lost connection here for a second. Okay, sorry about that. So I don't know how much you heard. I saw all of a sudden I got an audio issue that popped up. But so what we did here is we worked with Southwest Valley Constructors. They were the lead contractor on this, and we got the baseline from them. And again, you can see here that we have a horizontal alignment, and it's labeled exactly where it came from and who it came from. And we have the stationing. So we are now able to also not only give the lineal footage of the line of pipe that they did, but now Adrian can also make sure that his starting point and his ending point stationing match the starting and ending point stationing of what his site superintendent marked down based upon the stationing that's marked out into the field. With this information, we were then able to start creating further as-built information to meet some of the other requirements. So because this is such a long, I think it's over 40 miles long worth of work that they had to do, we could not create one solid alignment to handle everything at one time. It was just becoming a very daunting task, and it was putting a lot of horsepower and drag onto the computers. So what we started to do is we started to break everything out into its own alignment. So you'll see here that we now have the design set up for an alignment. We now have the fiber. If I look at this in profile view here, we'll see that this line now follows the exact topography of what they were using to set this on. And then this had a design elevation on it. So if we take a look at this in horizontal line, we'll take a look at this in profile view here. We can see here that this original alignment that we used also had the original design requirement elevations on it. So now we have an alignment that has elevations from the design that was also monitored in the field, and we now have an elevated line from the machine based upon where this was. Now we can start utilizing these two particular entities and start creating what we needed. So from here, we have our fiber underground gas, or our ground shots, our fiber ground shots. We have the design line where it needs to go, and we have the final surface of that. From here, we went in and we needed to create a corridor. So what we have is we have corridors broken out for each one of these particular things. So I'm just gonna flip over to here and we'll come over to this corridor and we'll look at the 10th here. And I'll just edit this really quick here so you can see. And what we were able to do is edit corridor template, is come in and we were able to, in the corridor, attach the finished grade surface that was given to us, as well as you can see in here, it is showing us where these particular lines are that we set up in our layer and group manager. So we were able to attach these lines to our corridor. By doing that, this has now allowed us to be able to cross-section and profile this whole project for this particular run. So once we have this in, and as we go down through here, you'll see that everything is set up right through here. So as I walk through the project, you can see where in real time where the fiber, it was actually moving around, and where the fiber line design actually was. And now we know why they had to move it, because of some differences in the ground, or some issues in the ground based upon rocks. So now we can kind of get a real-time visual of everything. So you can walk somebody through in the office of what has actually happened on that particular day. You can call your site super and you can say, hey, at this station over here, we noticed that we see something. Now he can actually go out there, and with today's technology, go out to that, take a picture and explain to you why that is. And now you can have that in your as-built folder, or we can attach that picture to our as-built drawing to say, hey, in this area, this is why this is over in this area. So now we have this created. What this has allowed us to be able to do, let me come back to my view filter, is be able to create as-built sheets. So I'm going to come in, and right over here, you'll see that we were able to create as-built, and you can see where they have their logo, their company information is in here, the information that they wanted to have in their legend, the scale, cross-section, the date, and then their information is all filled out in here. My business center is a different date. I forgot to change it. That's why this came out as a different date. But what you're going to see by use of this in this cross-section is we can now show in cross-sectional view at that station. Here is the design fiber set for 3 feet. Here is the fiber set on 810. There is the depth below the design grade. And here is where the grade was at the time of placement. And we'll be able to do this and have this on every single cross-section. So not only did we meet the requirement multiple times by doing the surface point to surface report, give them the area and length report, but now we're also able to generate visuals. And because Business Center and the way we have this set up and the way we're running this is Adrian is going to be able to, and has been able to, do this if he wanted to, like Cyrus said, on a daily basis. He can print out the points of surface report for 2 of them, do the area and length, and then immediately go in, create the corridor, attach those 3 lines to it, and then all he has to do, because we already have his templates set up and we already have plan sheets developed for him, all he has to do is drop in a new set of plan sheets, set it up for the date that he wants, attach the information that he needs, and now he has as-built drawings for that day right there, because everything is organized and put into the proper way of generating a project. Now, to think about this, if I had to do this in the olden days, this would not have been almost on a daily basis. This would have been at the end of the very project of what is going on. So with the technology and what you can do, it is mind blowing. And if you really have a guy in the field that's ready to embrace the technology, somebody in the office that you know is willing to learn and absorb or has business center skills, and you work with a very good site tech and have, you know, people that really know how the technology works, you'll be able to generate all of this in a heartbeat. So all our sheets are already created. We can switch over. I'll go to sheet 7 and you'll see here sheet 7 is created. But then what they also wanted, and they needed to have plan and profile sheets. So I'll come over here and we'll show a plan profile sheet. And you can see that this plan profile sheet is set up with the legend that they want, the scale that this is going to be plotted at. Again, their information is in here. And what you'll see in here is, based upon the legend, fiber set. So you can see the blue line here. This is where the fiber was actually set based upon the information pulled directly from the machine. Fiber design. This is the design line based upon dropping that straight down 3 feet below the surface at that location. The green line here is the actual ground at time of placement. And the red line is the actual final design surface of what is going to be out there when they come over. Okay, so when the project's over, that's going to be where the final design surface is. Up on the top here, he's able to label the different fiber line. That is the design line, that's the fiber set. This is the baseline for the stationing that was being used at that time. Again, all these plot sheets are already set up, so all we have to do is walk through and you'll see that the text and everything is there. May have to just move that down a little bit, but these are set and ready to go and present to people. You create a PDF file of this, and now you can ship all your information over to whoever you need to. The other beautiful part about this is, because it's Business Center and because Southwest Valley is using Business Center, I know Adrian has been able to VCL some of the files over to the people at Southwest Valley. They were able to bring it into their Business Center and do whatever reporting that they needed to do in order for requirements that they needed to be able to meet with this. So having this right here, but the cool part about having this one set up, this is also set up to a view filter right here. So by setting things up correctly, I could come in and say, you know what, I want to have that surface, okay, for this show up. So I want this surface to show up in my plot. So now I can come over, and if I come back over to my plot sheet, you'll see that instantly I can now show the actual surface in there of where the machine tracking actually happened along that route for the placement of this. So by being organized and using the potential of Business Center and really doing it, you can make your project very, very successful. So that's what we did. I'm gonna kind of have Adrian chirp in here a little bit and kind of explain what he's been doing and his learning curve in Business Center, and then we'll pass it over for any questions and wrap up from the guys at Trimble. So Adrian, is there anything you would like to add, or Cyrus, anything you'd like to add to the presentation that I just showed?
Good morning, Mike. This is Adrian. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you for Mike. He's my mentor, and we pass any kind of language barrier, and he's been teaching me from the beginning, setting up the workflow. That's really, really important. And for me, it's been like a really tough transition using other softwares with Trimble Business Center. At the beginning, I've been a little bit lost, but Mike organized everything for me, organized all the tools and set up all the categories. And in 5 sessions, I was able to do my current job, to do all the daily reports and send all the weekly reports on time. All the time we need to add more in our reports, and just to all the time I'm learning something new, and that's really important. It's a really complex software. And thank you, Mike, for all your help.
Not a problem. That's what I'm here for. Cyrus, is there anything you would like to say?
No, there's like you said, a bit of a learning curve. You have to get your people in the field kind of tuned up to what they're doing, so they're giving us the right information. You're working wonderfully with Adrian to get him tuned up. But the learning curve is definitely worth it, I think, for the power you get from the tool. So, nothing more to add than that.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I know Rick had mentioned that he's already has other projects in mind that he plans on using the technology for too. So that was good to hear from him the other day. So that's awesome. So guys, that's the overall presentation. Like Adrian said, I took about 5 5-hour training sessions that I did. I broke them out into 5 1-hour training sessions with him to break it out into small, easable chunks. And I kind of try to cram this down into about a 35-40 minute time frame. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. If not, have at it, guys.
All right. Check here. Nick, have you seen any questions come through? Let's see. Actually, I do see one here.
Yep, I got one.
See. Okay.
Can this be used for an excavator?
Yes,
How did you set up the machine? Was it the machine based off of an excavator in itself when you set it up? Do you know?
Was this set up based off of with an excavator? No, it was actually based off of setting it up as a blade.
Gotcha. Outside of that, that's the only other question. Dylan, if you want to wrap it up, if there's no others.
All right. Let me go ahead and switch that back over to myself. Can you see the prerequisite screen?
Yeah, we got you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike, once again. That was very informative. Thank you, Cyrus. Thank you, Adrian, for your time and for your expertise. Myself, coming from the subsurface utility world, that was very, very informative. Just the technology and the capabilities that are available to provide these prints. And I think, like Mike was saying, these as-built that we have created, that was something that was done at the end, and the fact that they can do this right at the beginning, man, it just blows my mind. So I just want to tip my hat to the team. I hope that was as informative for everyone else as it was for myself. But if you're looking to dive deeper into this, what you're going to need to create the data is Trimble Business Center version 5.32 and this site modeling module. To record the data, you're going to need WorksOS, and to transmit that data, you'll need WorksManager. All right, and just for a quick overview of what is needed to see the data in WorksOS, a machine with machine or grade control system, back office connectivity, access to the CAL files, and a current version of a WorksOS user license. And feel free, and please do reach out to your local rep to get some more information regarding what you need specifically to see this data. And other resources and next steps available, please visit Trimble's construction and geospatial web pages for more related content and solution information, as you see here. We'll also be sending up a follow-up to this email with available links. We also have Trimble Business Center YouTube channels available for your visual needs. The past TBC Power Hours are also available to those looking to revisit or view past webinars for the first time. You can find those on both the CEC and GEO web pages, respectively. And if you're looking for more social interactions related to TBC, the TBC community pages are right there at your fingertips. Again, depending on your field of interest, we have a community page for both construction and geospatial needs. And for those high-level users looking to take TBC to the next level, please visit our macros community page where you can ask questions, post your own macros, and get feedback from the TBC team. And if that isn't enough, we have our extensive TBC library for your learning enjoyment, online videos, tutorials from many of the TBC modules and functions, with many of the videos already available and new videos being added as we go. It's the one-stop shop for all your visual training needs. And to download a free trial version of TBC Base, you can do that at the following link. Again, we'll send a follow-up email with those provided links. And as well, you can contact your local Trimble dealer or SITECH dealer for a demo license. And those who are new to TBC should start by following the provided tutorials. Other resources such as our YouTube videos, as I just showed, are great teaching tools for both new and old users. All right, and as for our next TBC Power Hour, that will focus on TBC and processing photogrammetry data and will be held on November 18th. So please keep an eye out for a follow-up and notifications so that you can register for November's Power Hour. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again next month and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Hey, excuse me, Delon, this is Paul Miles. Just before we finish off here, I did see a few more questions come through.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Nick, I wonder if you can check the panel, or I'm happy to read them off as well.
Yeah, they're not popping up on my side if you want to read them out.
Okay, so one question that came through earlier, this is for Mike and the KAE team. Were you using a network solution or a single baseline, radio broadcast or cell with the setup?
We were actually using a Radiant radio mesh network for this because of the topography of the ground. To try to have one base set up was a little difficult. Now, we did run into some issues with reverb off of the wall. So there's times where we had to set up a base station of our own, but all the information was then sent once we reconnected to the mesh network. Radiant was then sent up to WorksOS and then into Business Center.
Okay, thank you. And then I have another question here more related to WorksManager. So Steve Benko, this might be one for you. How do I create a WorksManager design in VCL format that is dedicated to a machine and not a data collector, or vice versa?
Yeah, so the ones in the VCL format comes from anything that we publish from Business Center out to WorksManager. And then once we do that, basically it's unpacked, right? The file formats that are compatible with, Earthworks versus SiteWorks, right? Those ones are kind of embedded within that VCL, and the different field hardware systems are able to read the VCL and pull that data out of the VCL themselves when they pick that design file. I think that answered it. I think that answered all the question parts of that, but if not, let me know.
Okay, thank you. So Delana, I think that's it. I don't see any more questions coming through.
All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and conclude this TBC Power Hour, and we look forward to seeing you all next month. Mark your calendars for November 18th. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.